So very good morning to all of you. So today is day 3 of our Pubet Planner Bootcamp for Public Administration. And on day 3, today's agenda is going to be around notes making. Okay. So please download the worksheet for today. The worksheet is like this. For those of you who are in the class, the worksheet has been handed out in a physical printout format. For those of you who are watching this session online, please download the worksheet. So give me a green light whether you have downloaded the worksheet or not as yet. Hi Naveen, hi Yogesh. Okay, have we all downloaded the worksheet? Now, coming to the point, if you will see the worksheet, today's worksheet is a bit straightforward. Only 3-4 exercises are there, right? And we'll be focusing on notes making, and for notes making we'll be taking certain example. The idea is why notes? To say this, that why do we actually need notes? How many of you in your lives, you would have studied at various levels, school, college, university, etc. And many a times it happens. The worksheet is there in, okay, Neha has sent the link for the worksheet. Yogesh. So many a times it happens that we make notes but never revise them. For you, how many of you this thing has happened? Hanji. Has it ever happened that you made the notes but never revised them? Yes or no? Right? For many of you, this has happened. Hi Prashasti. Please download the worksheet. So, the point is that any sort of effort that you all are putting in making notes, if you are not revising them, then it is defeating the very purpose for which you made the notes. And this is why you see 90% of the candidates who prepare for this examination, which requires dealing with 13-14 subjects of general studies, then optional essay, right? And similarly, there are challenges in the prelims front. They struggle with revision. Because if the notes making is not proper, then you cannot utilize those notes. It's like making a very big weapon, but you are somehow not able to take it to the battlefield. Okay, and that is where the problem is, right? That is where the problem is. So your entire effort actually goes down in the drain. Your entire effort goes down in the drain. Hence, the purpose of notes is twofold. One, to revise. Two, to demarcate the territory. Because you see, like I said in the initial session, that it is ultimately about the management of topic. We cannot go back to 3-4 books. When we talk about optional, we probably have more things, in terms of numbers. We cannot go back to these sources every time, cover to cover. So your notes is nothing but a summation. The entire thing which is required for the subject as per the examination is there in your notes. It saves you the effort of actually the last time, the last minute hustles that are there. Okay, and hence it is important to make notes. So the first thing is the importance of the notes themselves. But the problem is that can we call anything the notes? Can we call anything the notes? No. It should be structured. Structured in a manner that when you revise them, you are able to imbibe and understand the topic at hand, revisit the topic at hand, enrich the topic at hand. You see, this examination is not just about reading a lot. It is also about retaining and utilizing it. So there is no point, oh, I have read this book, I have read that book, but if you don't revise and you don't remember, and you are not in a position to utilize that knowledge that you have acquired in the examination on the answer booklet, everything is futile. Hence, the structuring of the notes is of utmost importance. Hence, the structuring of the notes is of utmost importance. Now, if you see the common mistakes that a candidate commits is too much info that contributes to noise. That contributes to noise. We stuff our notebooks, our handouts in a manner with so much info that it is not relevant. We are not able to consume it. It's like going to a party and filling your plate out of the buffet with everything, and then you cannot eat it. Also, things get mixed up and you cannot derive good taste out of stuff as well. Right? Imagine having a sweet dish and mixing it with a tangy chutney. It will spoil both. Right? So in that sense, if you see, the notes is something that should be well structured so that we can consume it. So, this mistake can be suicidal, that we make notes in a manner that we cannot consume them, effectively. So far, understood? Okay, somebody saying something? You can watch, Yogesh, you can watch the session again, and there is this e-material section. When you log in onto the website, you will land up onto the bootcamp package, and there you have that e-material section from which you can download yesterday's worksheet. Right, that is what I am saying. You can download it from there. It is there for everybody. Those who have missed it, those who haven't downloaded it, it is there. Told you how you can download it. Right? Hi Sridevi, hi Hani, hi Praveen, Akash, Pavijagan, Daksh, Rahil. All right. So I hope we have sort of established the need for notes and why notes are important. Okay. Now, if you look at the utilization, often our focus is on memorization. And in the first session, you saw how, when we saw the categorization of questions, the UPSC is going to be dynamic in nature. There are going to be static concepts, information that is going to be utilized. So it is a no-brainer that yes, we have to remember everything. Okay, but the point is, can we mug up everything? No. So a mistake that a lot of you will commit will keep a book and do it like this, read it over and over again and think that you understand it. That is why folks like me are here, to make you understand stuff so that you don't have to memorize, because memorization has a saturation level. Okay, beyond a point you cannot memorize, beyond a point you cannot recall. So it is reading, then retention, then recall. Right? So there is this cycle, and the funnel keeps on getting steeper. What you have read, a portion of it only you will be able to retain, and a portion of that you will be able to recall. So in that sense, if you see, a mechanical school or college kind of an approach does not work for this examination. And that's the point I want you to actually, to put this point in your DNA, that this examination is a different ball game altogether. You are applying for jobs and want to be in the creme de la creme, in the Indian, not just administrative power structure, but also social structure. You are a nobody walking on a street, and when you qualify this exam, suddenly you become a local celebrity, if not a national one. So it gives you instant social mobility. Very few are getting selected every year, and you all know this, right? You all are here and you all know this. So please be very clear that while we are for this examination, we need to understand things, because the examination is not going to ask A for apple, B for ball. No. So the Chatur Ramalingam approach that you saw in Three Idiots, hum rat lenge and I do not need to understand it, does not work here. You will have to understand. Okay. Another mistake that many candidates make is not integrating thinkers, examples, and building those interlinkages. If you see, from the day one, I have talked about those interlinkages and its relevance, because the examination is such. I mean, it's not my thing. It is the requirement of the examination, and we'll have to mold for this examination. Okay. Also, too much time, poor time management. At times we pick up a book and we see, I will read it without any purpose or outcome. So always measure the outcome. Yes, the refinement in the outcome will come over the period of time. It is not something you have started reading today and you have understood today only. You might understand a part of it, but that's fine. Okay? Apart from this, if you see the notes cycle, a lot of you will think, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? Now, we'll be starting off with the substantive classes soon. And the classes will have dictation. Whatever we discuss, you are expected to note down that as well. Right? Apart from that, yes, I will be giving dictations and detailed notes on everything. So that will make a volume that is needed, because that is where the crux of everything that is present from various books, sources, research, etc., which you as a candidate cannot find. 1, 2, even if you try, it will take 2 years, right? That is why I am here. Okay, but the point here is that there is this note cycle. Class notes will demand certain enrichment, and this is a perennial cycle. Though I would ideally want all of you to qualify this examination in the very first attempt, but alas, we are all aware of the reality that some of you might not be able to. And I can, with reasonable sense of responsibility at my command, say public administration won't be the reason. Okay. But still, the reality is this. So you will have to take it up next year. So this enrichment from static plus dynamic sources. By that I mean news, current affairs. So constantly that enrichment is needed. So just a practical advice: instead of notebooks, use loose sheets, punch hole them and file. Day wise, topic wise. Okay, why am I saying this? Because tomorrow if you have a new information to add, you can put a new sheet. Because in a notebook, it will be hard bound. You will be sort of, messing up on your margins. 6 months down the line, you will never be able to read what you have written. So inserting a new sheet is always an easy thing. You can even insert it in between. Because if in a notebook you are going to insert sheets, it's going to become like this. Right? So that thing should be avoided. Now, coming to the note cycle, like I said, once is your class notes. We'll be integrating it with current affairs, contemporary linkages, etc. But 5.5 months down the line, when the program will be over, but you are still preparing, there would be enrichment that is needed. So one, from the dynamic sources, like I said, okay, current affairs. A lot of you ask me that, sir, public administration current affairs. Arey bhai, there is no public administration current affairs. Okay, current affairs are current affairs. You need to tag them for the syllabus. For example, when in UK, when Mr. Strammer, whatever be the name of the Prime Minister of UK presently, the elections were going on and he was there. So there was an article, an editorial on speaker in UK and speaker in India. There was a long editorial. So while this is current affairs for GS paper 2 polity, this is also for comparative public administration, right? Union government and administration. So it is important that you tag them. So whenever you make those notes of current affairs, you tag them, and if you can write it just keep on inserting with your static notes, so that at the end of this whole funnel, you will be having a one big file. Okay? That will have everything integrated in place, synchronized. This looks like a mammoth effort, but if you will make it a muscle memory, it will take 2 minutes. Make it a habit. Just like a lot of you drive, some of you don't have a habit of giving indicator. Once you make it a habit, even if you are turning in a locality, automatically your hand will go on the indicator. Right? Whatever, bike, car, scooty, whatever you are driving. So make it a habit. The effort will go in making it a habit. And if you do anything for 21 days, this is an empirically proven psychological study. If you do anything continuously for 21 days, the chances are that it solidifies into a habit. Okay? So once you have made this a habit, at the end of this tunnel, you will have a comprehensive notes. That is the first part of the story. That is the first part of the story. That my notes are my Bible. I will go back to the books only, or some material only, when I am revising my notes and something gets foggy in my head. Oh my God, I need greater clarity on this. Because the static sources you would have already enriched through books. Some of you might come up to me with a query that in this particular topic, out of my, for my soul satisfaction. Okay, you might come to me and say that, sir, okay, you have explained this topic, very good, I understand this, but I want to know more. I might say that this is not required for the examination, but you will still persist, no sir, I want to know more. Okay, then read this. I will tell you something to read. Okay, so the static sources are there, the books that I have mentioned that are there. So your duty is that whenever we have studied a topic in the class, made comprehensive notes, just go back, see the standard literature and sort of value add what you think. Okay. Next is the character of notes. You see, we are not Shakespeare, nor we are Shashi Tharoor. Okay, so thee, thou, thou, manners maketh manners maketh man, and all those things that are not needed. Simple is, am, are kind of English. Simple English that is needed. But remember, your English should not be open to dual interpretation. That Abhishiekh might perceive it and read it and understand it differently. Okay, Akash might read it, understand it differently. Yogesh might read it, understand it differently. Naveen might read it, understand it differently. Okay, so they should be very specific. Plus subject vocab. Remember, this is not GS, this is optional. Also, even in GS, you have general studies. It's not generic studies. Okay. So, the vocabulary of the subject is of immense significance. Every subject has its own vocabulary. If you will see public administration, the vocabulary is drawn from various subjects. Business management, sociology, philosophy, right? Even military. Okay? You will see the vocabulary coming. So you have to be true to that vocabulary, because that vocab should be present. That provides your notes a unique subject character. Also, this vocabulary should be there in your answers. Okay? So this is something that should be there. Then the flow. A leads to B leads to C. This helps us providing not just info, that is answer to the question what, that we have discussed this aspect before. But also how and why. So that a reasoning is built, and this reasoning will help you build analysis in the answers. Okay? So this is something that is needed, because this approach, if we do not do it on day one, we'll be doing it in second attempt, third attempt or fourth attempt. God forbid, sixth attempt. And then we'll be gone. And I don't want any of you to waste your life like this. Right? Okay? So the point is that the sooner we ingrain these habits, the better it is. Some of you might think, oh my God, what he is saying. See, we are not a machine, nor I am a machine, nor you are a machine. You have come to me, there are good chances that we are going to qualify this examination. But without a particular orientation change, it is not possible. Also, we have to work on our SWOT analysis. What are our strengths? What are opportunities? What are weaknesses? And what are threats? Play by strengths, tap the opportunities, work on weaknesses, dodge the threats. Okay? So that is something that is needed, because this entire note making cycle is 70% of the job, which will help you interlink, understand, analyze, write good answers. Okay? So that's the first thing that is there. Now, more. So that was the first cycle where we have this detailed all fallback upon idea. But can I read 1000, 2000 pages on the eve of the examination? No. If you see, in day 1 and day 2, I made you draw certain tables that, okay, just give me this. So the idea is, we have this much 1000, 2000 pages notes. Let's not be afraid. Okay? Once this thing is done, we will have to make concise notes. And for everybody, it will be their own thing. It will be their own invention. By reading this, revising this, make concise notes. I gave you the example that go and take a rock. The more you write, the better it is. And I'm not asking you to memorize it. Okay? All of you have eaten barfi, yes or no? Hanji, barfi. A good milk barfi. All of you would have eaten this. Arey yaar, come on, barfi nahi khai. Yes or no? Come on. Abhishiekh, Shruti, Anshika, Akash, Naveen, Kuldeep, Paras, Praveen. Others haven't eaten barfi? Okay, no worries. Naveen, come to Delhi, I'll get some for you. Okay, now the point is, we all have seen a milk pot, okay, a big milk pot. Let us say I have these 1200, 2000 liters of milk. I keep it on a simmer, keep stirring it, and the milk will reduce, right? It will get condensed. This is what I want you to do here. Because these concise notes, around 300 to 500 pages, can be revised. But if you see that I will pick up somebody else's concise notes and read, no, it ain't happening. It ain't happening, folks. Okay. The idea is fairly simple, that these are your notes. These are my notations. For example, wherever in science and tech I had to write water, I guess I talked about this before as well, I always write H2O. Whenever there is a notion that I write, okay, accountability increases because transparency increases. I write it like this: leading to enhancement in good governance. This is my notation. Okay? Because these are concise notes and we are supposed to be writing these concise notes for ourselves so that we can revise the stuff effectively. Okay? Because it is not about reading 100 different things. We'll be reading certain number of fixed things and we'll be sort of stirring it again and again like that milk pot on simmer, so that it condenses and we are able to consume it effectively, providing nutrition to our body. Okay? So UPSC is the game of consistency. It is not a game of burst, that today I will walk 1000 meters, tomorrow I will lay down on my bed, don't walk at all. Day after tomorrow I will do it only 10 meters. No. You do 100 meters, but you do it every day. I guess I gave you the example as well. 0.99 to power 365 and 1.01 to power 365. This was something that was 37.8 something, and this was very less in decimals. Okay? So the point here is that we do it every day and we do it consistently and diligently. Eat less but eat regularly. Just like your gym diets, your trainer would advise you that instead of 3 meals, eat 6 meals, but in small proportions. So that is the key here, friends. Alright, so have we understood this? Are we clear on this? Yes or no? Because then I will move to the substantive section and then we will take up a topic and see how the various notes are made. Others understood this aspect? Yes or no? Bhai, yes or no? I need an audience that is alive. Apart from Naveen, nobody is responding. Or Yogesh. Shruti, Abhishiekh, Anshika, Hani, Akash, Pavijagan, Daksh, Rahil, Prashasti. Hanji. See, if you don't respond, let us close the class. Hanji, understood? Yes, tell me. Understood? So far, whatever talk has been made understood, or are there any queries? In life, you might have faced certain challenges that I am not able to do this, I am not able to do that. Are there any queries? Yes or no? Okay. Now, let us look at notes making technique. And I will just demonstrate this with an example. Right? If you will see the worksheet, page number 3. The first technique is linear notes making. As the name suggests, linear means it flows in a linear format. Okay? A simple point or paragraph wise ideas, which is best suited for static. Mind you, for our analysis, we are studying these different techniques. In reality, while managing a topic, you will have to use a combination of these in different proportions based on the nature of a topic. For example, if you see, I have given a very rudimentary example and I am not teaching these theories in this session. These theories will come eventually in the substantive classes that we will be starting by the end of the month. Mind you, if you haven't enrolled for it as yet, enroll it, right? Because if the batch starts, you'll be missing on classes. So this I have taken an example, Douglas McGregor. If you see, a thinker, he has been mentioned and he is famous for his theory X and theory Y. So the characteristics of X and the characteristics of Y. So this linear format, which is largely static, which is there for recording information, is the best suited format, because in a point wise, in a paragraph wise manner, tick, 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 one after the other, we can make notes. Also, you will have to keep in mind that the substantive notes, there is going to be a lot of linearity, because we are moving from one topic to other and linking them. Whereas in the revision notes or the crisp revision notes that you will make, there is going to be a far greater degree of mess, if I may call it, right? Greater degree of interlinkages, etc., etc. Okay, so this is something that I have given an example of what entails theory X and theory Y in the worksheet. Do you all follow? Yes or no? Do you all follow what I have been saying in the worksheet? So there are certain characteristics of theory X and then there are certain characteristics of theory Y that are there. Okay. Now with this, a linear notes format where we note down for theoretical static concepts, let us today look at a very basic yet elementary concept of what do we mean by the term administration. So let me tell you what am I going to do. I will tell you the meaning of administration, quote various scholars, thinkers, and will in a sort of a way try and imbibe and provide you with the information. You are all supposed to make these linear notes on administration, for which I will give certain time. Okay, let us say you are in the class and we are discussing something, and sometimes discussion go from one step to other and more threads are open and we are scribbling down. But when we go back home, we consolidate the stuff, we ought to make linear notes. Okay, so right now while I am explaining, okay, make this fashion, and then in the exercise section, make the linear notes. Okay, and you know where to send it to me on WhatsApp. That is 8587873348. Okay, click the photograph and send it to me. Fine. This is going to be our modus operandi. So, if you look administration, it is an activity that is as old as the society itself. Okay, but if we look administration as a separate field of inquiry, a separate field of study, this particular spark came about after Woodrow Wilson, who was then a scholar and of course later became a US president. He published an essay in 1887. Okay, 1887. Very basic ABC level understanding I am giving you. Okay, when we will enrich, our notes keep on getting advanced. If you see public administration or rather not public administration, the word administration. It is common for both public as well as private enterprises. I told you, administration is there in your body, in your family. Okay? So if we look at as a field of inquiry study, it was Wilson's essay which brought the focus. As a process, administration is something that is prevalent in any sort of an organization, that is public or private. So whether that is a government organization, ministry, your resident welfare association, a company producing software, right, a temple charitable trust, a military, right? However, its nature, the third point is, its nature is contingent upon the organizational goals, what that organization performs. Okay? What that organization performs. Broadly speaking, we can say that either the organization will be in the public sphere or in the non-public sphere, that is the private sphere. Okay? So whenever we talk about public administration, we are essentially looking at some aspect of government or state. So the sphere is government or the state. And this aspect has been in existence ever since political systems have been in existence. I told you in the previous sessions that how initially they were nomads, then the leadership came about, then some sort of a state and society relationship developed. So in that sense, if you see, the politics developed. So any kind of a political system. Whereas a private administration is generally which is non-public, largely identified with business organizations, but not limited to business organizations. Okay, it can be a charitable organization. So to understand the functioning of an organization, it is essential to understand administration. And to understand administration, it is essential to understand what kind of an organization we are dealing with. Okay? Hanji, understood? Understood this? Yes or no? Understood this much? बताइए. हाँ जी. श्रुति, योगेश, अतुल, प्रवीण, नवीन, हनी, आकाश, पवी जगन, दक्ष, राहिल. Understood? अरे भाई बताओ. At least say yes or no so that हाँ जी. समझ में आया ये आपको? हैव यू अंडरस्टूड दिस? योगेश, श्रुति, आकाश, पारस, तेजस्वनी, दक्ष, see, if you are not going to reply to my questions, I will not reply to yours. As simple as that. The deal won't work. The deal won't work. All right. Since you all are so responsive, I'll keep this in mind. Moving forward, so this idea of administration, where it is placed in the context, that is the first part that we are looking at. Now, we'll be looking at the terminology itself. So, administration as a terminology is derived from a Latin word called administre. Rather ERE, which means to look after, to care for people and manage the affairs. Also, administration is not an activity which is a lone or single actor activity. It is a group activity. Group activity. Whenever there is group, that means there are multiple people that are involved. So there has to be communication, coordination, cooperation. These are the terminologies, the technical jargons, the vocabulary of the subject that I am referring to. For what? For achieving a goal. So men, that means women as well. Okay. So men, materials, that means resources, effort. When it is systematized, when it is synchronized through these things to attain a certain goal, we are looking at it as administration. This is one part of the meaning. This is one part of the meaning. More. But if you look administration, it can be seen as in a 3 or 4 different ways. Okay? First, as a discipline, a field of inquiry, a field of study, a branch of learning where research goes on, it is taught. Second, as a vocation. As a vocation. That means a profession, an occupation. Whenever there is a job performance, an occupation, there would be learning and training. Those will be involved. Next, it is looked at as a process. As a process, because one thing leads to other. It's a process, a stepwise approach. I told you that men, material, aligned and coordinated activities to attain a goal. So it's a process. Also, it is often used as a synonym for state or government. For the state or government. Okay? For example, we say Trump administration, we say Modi administration, right? Or we say in general the administration is not doing something, etc., etc. So if you see the terminology of administration, it follows this broad idea. Of course, there are, more details. There are more details. Okay? So, like I said, administration would entail organizing these men and materials in an order to accomplish a goal. That means it's a group activity. It's a group activity. So this cooperative, coordinated, systematized effort that is being brought about. So that means administration is nothing without a goal. Administration is nothing without a goal, a direction, because we are looking at it as a process, a direction. That means a determined action. Okay? Systematization. Systematization. Whenever we are using resources and it's a well thought out activity aligned in a process in a coordinated manner, that means we are looking at a calculated use. Okay? Or in simplicity, I can say the art of getting things done. The art of getting things done. Understood this? Yes or no? Understood this much? Should I move ahead? Give me a green light on that. Come on friends, give me a green light on that. Naveen, today it is fine? You are not feeling it is as heavy? You are able to understand that, Naveen? Which part do you want me to repeat, Yogesh? Which part specifically? Hanji, which part? Point number 2, it's a vocation, it's a profession. It's a vocation, it's a profession. I am an administrator. So there is a certain amount of learning and training that I will need to perform that role. In the previous session we talked about administration broadly as a discipline, as a field of study, field of inquiry, as well as a activity that one performs, a profession. Okay, so in that sense I have broken down the meaning, and we are all only on the meaning of administration, right? If you see, I have done nothing else. I have just condensed it to getting things done and aligned the men, material, resources, direction, process, determined action and goal. This is what I am doing to just explain a term in a linear format using the linear notes. Understood that, Yogesh? Yogesh. Okay. Now, this is the base, the logic, okay, that has been arrived for the term administration. Now, scholarly views, because we are looking at an optional. Now, there would be hundreds of scholars. You cannot say that I will mug up all the scholarly views. It is not even required that for all the scholars you need to know the statements verbatim. What is required is that you understand and you can identify in the examination. Yes, few prominent one, as we study, revise, we sort of imbibe them verbatim. So there is one scholar called E.N. Gladden. E.N. Gladden, and I'll speak very slowly the statement so that you note down the statement. Administration is a long and slightly pompous word. I quote Gladden. Administration is a long and slightly pompous word, comma, but it has a humble meaning. Comma, for it means to care for. Or look after people. Comma, to manage the affairs. Full stop. It is a determined action. Taken in pursuit of conscious purpose. This is one scholar. Okay, E.N. Gladden. Now I hope whatever Gladden says I have already sort of explained that. Okay, so I am not getting into it. So basically you see, each of these scholars, what we have understood as the meaning of administration. So it will be like this, that we have so many things in the meaning of administration that we have studied. So one scholar, Gladden, might be looking at this reality. Let me use a different color. Another scholar will be using this reality. Another scholar will be using this reality. Another scholar will be using this reality. It's like that story where people are blindfolded and they are taken near to an elephant and they are asked what it is. By touching you have to tell. So the one who actually touched the tail said something else. The one who touched the ear said something else. The one who touched the nose said something else. Right? So it is that part on which various scholars are focusing. Okay? So be mindful of this. Another scholar, Negro. He says, and there are many. Today I am not giving you all of them. Okay? There are many. So Negro says, administration is the organization. Administration is the organization and use of men and materials. To accomplish a purpose. Now see, I have given you two definitions or two meanings of administration by various scholars. Now, in the examination, what they will do? Administration is the organization and use of men and materials to accomplish a purpose. Full stop, comment. This is the question. So in the beginning, while explaining administration to you, I took a composite view, this entire bigger circle. and the UPSC is asking a part of it. So therefore, if in linear notes we have everything and then we align things, we are able to get not just the macro picture but also the micro picture. Okay. Now there is another scholar, L.D. White. What White is saying? White says the art of administration is the art of administration is the direction, comma, coordination, and control of many persons to achieve some purpose or objective. To achieve some purpose or objectives. To achieve some purpose or objectives. Okay. Similarly, there are various views, but if I can summarize them, first, it is the cooperative effort, systematized, synchronized effort. Then there is a common goal or objective. Then there is a common goal or objective. Okay. So that means if either of them there is a common goal and objective and no cooperative effort, that means we cannot say it is administration. Or if there is cooperative effort but no common goal, we can say it is not administration. Okay. So therefore, if we look at it, now this is from a mechanical, very textbookish view that we have seen. Now, if you see and extrapolate, extend it to social sphere, it is a technology that brings about, or the technology of social relationships. It is a process that is common to all, group effort, whether it is public, private, personal, large, small, whether it is a bank, a country, a university, an institution, a hospital, or anything. Okay? Understood? Understood? So this is the rudimentary understanding of the term administration, right? I do not want to make it more heavy with more detailed concepts, right? Because we'll be doing it somewhere in the class in a far more systematic manner. For the workshop, the idea is that how we make linear notes. Okay, now you have 15 minutes to actually make these linear notes on administration, whatever we have discussed so far. Okay, and then send it across to me on WhatsApp. I gave you the number, you all have it, and we'll see how you have made notes, and I will comment how good or how correct you are and what more needs to be done to the limited extent that we have discussed. I am not asking you to pour the entire knowledge on administration in one notes, to the limited idea that we have discussed. Okay, we'll go step by step. Even in the classroom, we'll go step by step. Okay, so you have 15 minutes for this. All right, let's have a look. Some of you have sent me the responses. Naveen, this is fine, but we haven't included the scholarly perspective. We haven't included the stuff that is needed when it comes to direction, coordination, etc. in our analysis, right? What about others? I haven't received a response. The time is past. Should I continue or should I wait if you need a couple of more minutes? So this is just a snapshot. This is headings. This can be my micro notes once I have the understanding, and I have sort of developed that understanding that okay, for a revision or a quick glance I'm looking at them. But these are not linear notes. They lack the details. The way I showed it to you, see from here. See this thing, then this thing, then this thing, then this one, this one, this one. Okay? So tell me, should I continue or should I wait? Or some of you are in the process of sending that across. See, like I said, that when we were working, Naveen, when I was explaining the concept, your hand, eye, brain should work. Your ears should work, and they should work in a coordinated, synchronized manner. So you jot down everything, and then when you sort of revisit them, structure them in a proper manner. If you see on the board itself, I structured them one thing leading to another, and then I gave certain scholarly views and linked them back to the ideas, right? I could have started up with the scholarly views and then explained the ideas, but that would not have made a lot of sense because we are right now beginning into the subject. We are not experts that we are discussing. Okay, so what you have done is you have just made the heads. This is something that can be my concise notes, but the details on why a coordination is needed, how goals are aligned, those descriptive details are lacking in your notes that you have sent me. Okay, see, I have explained so much. All right, should I continue? Yes or no? So in the class, in the dictations, we will be giving you this linear format as well. There will be dictations, but the idea is that there would be certain things that we discuss and then we give a dictation summarizing it. When you go back, can you carry home with you those discussions, and can you condense it in a format that you can use it 6 months or 12 months later? So that is the idea of notes making. Also, while you are studying something from a book, from a source, then you can sort of make use of it and enrich your notes. All right. Next is something that is flowcharts and line diagrams. Especially good for process and linkages. So if you see the handout, page number 4, what I have done is I have given a broad example of policy formulation in India. Let me simplify it for you. First, you will set the agenda. Okay, that what we need to do. What we need to do. What is our goal? Okay. Then you will formulate it. In this formulation, you will identify limitations, challenges, dimensions, okay, boundary, that I am going to provide, let us say, support to women. I need to support women and I need to provide a cash support, money support. Okay, there will be my agenda, there will be goals and impact that I intend to make in terms of women empowerment. Then what is my limitation? Can I give them 2 lakh rupees a month? No, my limitation would be something. Challenges would be something, identification of beneficiaries, etc., etc. Right? There would be dimensions that I will start it in rural areas, then upgrade it to urban areas. I will provide only this kind of women. There will be a boundary that first I will cover this area, then this area, then this area, where from the budget will come. Once you have set the agenda and formulated it, right, with various interactions with other stakeholders, okay, government, this ministry, finance ministry, Ministry of Women and Child Development, etc., etc. Then once I have formulated the policy, okay, I will legitimize it. I will put up to Prime Minister. If there is a law which is needed, I will go to the Parliament or the legislature. Right? Some activity I will be doing. Okay? Then once I legitimize it, I will implement it. Then if I have implemented it, after implementation, I will evaluate it. That how am I doing, whether my goals or impacts are being reached or not. I will examine it. Then I will make another decision whether to continue it, scrap it, enrich it, for which I will have to go back to the drawing board. And then for everything, I have to constantly monitor it. This is a simplified step diagram for a decision to be made, for a policy to be made. Right? Now, this is my flow chart. Now with this, at each stage, I can extrapolate, and for each state, I can identify the challenges, I can identify the issues, solutions, stakeholders, make it more detailed and detailed. Right? So this is what the example I have given. Now your next task will be to, in a similar manner, plot a detailed flowchart for me on the budgetary process in India. How do we make the budgets? How do we make the budgets? Okay? So what is step 1? How do we identify problems, set the agenda? What are the details that are there? It is coming from public, there is media pressure, there are elections, so many things. Then the policy has to be made. You will take out data, you will talk to bureaucrats, you will formulate a concept paper, etc., etc. So more vivid details will be there. How do you implement it? You will take up Jan Dhan Aadhaar, Mobile, Trinity, direct benefit transfer approach. Okay? All those things are there. And along with this, you will sort of integrate the theoretical perspectives, the conceptual, the theoretical angles of various thinkers and scholars. Similarly, the way I have shown you, this is a very rudimentary diagram. Let me explain the budgetary process, and I hope you will scribble it down and then make a detailed flowchart so that this flowchart can be used 10 months down the line. Okay? So, the budgetary process in India, budget, it is called as annual financial statement. President of India causes to lay the budget in the Parliament, it is the Finance Minister of India that lays the budget in the Parliament. What is it? It has the estimated revenue and expenditure. It has the estimated revenue and expenditure. It is prepared by Ministry of Finance, presented by the Finance Minister. Then there are articles. Article 112, which talks about the budget, annual financial statement. Then Article 265, that no tax can be levied or collected without the authority of law. So therefore, budget has a finance bill. Then Article 266, which talks about the Consolidated Fund of India. Okay? Now, why is budget important? Budget is important for financial planning. Financial planning and financial discipline. It is the amount of resources allocated for a government's priorities, for citizens' welfare, development, most importantly, the taxation. It is a vehicle to provide for economic growth, stability of the country. Okay? Understood? That is one part of the story. That is the prelude, that is the context. Now, moving to the steps. So this prelude on context can be in linear form. Then supplanted by the budget preparation. So step 1 would be budget preparation. In this step 1, who prepares the budget? It is the Department of Economic Affairs under Ministry of Finance, which coordinates the efforts with all ministries and other agencies, whether it is Niti Aayog, Finance Commission, RBI, etc., and all of their inputs are taken. Also, in the modern day, various industrial chambers of commerce like FICCI, NASSCOM, CII, trade associations, etc., they play a role, and they also, government takes inputs from them as well. Okay? What is a key activity? You do revenue forecasting. You forecast that how much revenue will be earning. Another key activity that you do is expenditure planning. Mind you, these are all part of the administration, no? It is a systematized effort, planned effort in a direction or a goal. Okay? Then the activity of consultations that I just talked about. And another activity is the balance or numbers, revenue deficit, these deficits, that deficit, fiscal deficit. Okay? Once this happens and the budget is prepared and the date is fixed, okay, you present the budget. You present the budget. The finance minister presents the budget in the Lok Sabha. Okay? right? And there is a finance bill and an appropriation bill. Finance bill and appropriation bill. And along with it, so finance bill is there, appropriation bill is there, and the FRBM, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. So they should comply to these things. Okay. Then the next step is the Parliament will debate, discuss on it. Okay, point by point it will scrutinize the budget, scrutinize the demand for grants, scrutinize the demand for grants and taxation proposals. The taxation proposal. Now, this discussion gets further divided into a general discussion, followed by a departmental committee review, department related standing committees review. Then it follows the demand for grant stage, and then the voting happens on the demand for grants. There are cut motions and other motions, token cut, this cut, that cut, that are used. Okay. Then once this happens, the voting happens, the next step, step 4, the approval process happens, where the finance and appropriation bills are passed. So once the bill gets passed and they get the president's assent, then they become a law. Once that happens, the implementation stage comes in. The implementation stage comes in, and all the agencies, the RBI, the various ministries and finance, ministry, they get the approval of the Parliament, because there is a proposal, there is a principle in democracy, no taxation without representation. So once the budget is passed, they can utilize the fund. And once this happens, step 6 is review and audit, which will act as a feeder for the next budget, which will act as a input or a feeder for the next budget. Okay. And of course there will be timeline that the government will start preparation of budget in August. I am taking this example because recently the budget was there. All of you would have read the newspapers, because all of you are preparing for civil services examination. And then in February the budget gets presented. Then in March the approval stage, etc. happens. So there is a timeline. So you can have a separate graph for timeline, the separate flowchart for timeline. And with each stage you can identify the concerns, whether it is related to coordination, whether it is related to data, whether it is related to mapping of resources, whether it is related to the various deficits, whether it is related to the agenda. Okay. Understood? Understood this much? Now the task is that you make a detailed flow chart for this budgetary process that I have explained. Okay, so you have 10 to 12 minutes for this, and this time I want more responses. Do it. All right, so I have received a few responses. Naveen, the prelude that I talked about, that you have to write in linear notes, that is missing. That you should make. This is fine, this is good, but I would like more details. That is not exhaustive. Understand, I know that all of you are just starting up, so I do not expect a very detailed diagram. Okay, but the point here is that we should progressively strive towards that whenever we get hands on a material, a book, a lecture which we need to enrich. So whenever there is a process orientation, these diagrams are of a great help. Good work, Naveen, but certainly we can do more, we can do better. Okay, so is there anybody else who's sending, or should I continue? Give me a green light on this. Yogesh, what about you? All right, so the next format is tabular notes. They are great for comparisons. So in the first two sessions you would have seen where we compared old governance, new governance, or old form of governance and good governance, where we compared NPM and Weberian bureaucracy, right? So in that sense, if you see, the comparison comes handsomely to us. If you see, I have given a very rudimentary comparison of the classical theory and the human relations theory. Similarly, I would want you to work on the difference between the public administration and the private administration. So we have discussed the idea of what is administration. Now what I am going to do is, I am going to tell you broadly, of course, the difference between the public administration and the business administration. And the way we have been developing the tables, there is some comparative aspects, and then there is old administration and new administration. So I want you to actually come up with tables for that. Okay, so that is the task. So pay great attention to the discussion, so that later when you make the tables, you have it with you. Okay, so when it comes to comparing the public administration and business or private administration, you see, both have administration to them. So both are actually concerned with managing organizations, coordination, cooperation. Both have a direction, both have goals, because administration is common. Whereas the focus, if you look, the public administration has a broader focus, whereas here the focus is narrower. Because the private administration is largely worried about management of the private enterprises. And these private enterprises work for what? Ultimate game is profit. Whereas a public organization, a public administration, there are goals which are multifarious. Development of the society, right? Growth, development, delivery of public services. Okay? In large, if I sum up, the goal would be public interest. Also, the orientation. A public organization is service oriented, whereas a private organization is profit oriented. A public organization is concerned with the implementation of government policies, programs, provision of public services, overall governance in the society, public welfare over profit maximization. Whereas the private organization is focused on profit making, business expansion, competition, customer satisfaction. So while in a public organization, the objectives are related to welfare, justice, law enforcement. In a private organization, the objectives are related to profit, expansion, competition, efficiency. In the public organization, the decision making is governed by law, regulation, constitution, highly rule based. Whereas business organizations are far more agile, flexible, okay, dynamic, market driven. In public organizations, the level of accountability is greater because they are working in public, they are the servants of public. They are accountable to legislature, the parliament, judiciary, the people at large. Whereas in business organizations, only the accountability is limited to bosses or to the stakeholders, the customers, the suppliers, etc. Okay? So there are similarities, both have decision making, both have planning, both have resource management, both needs to be efficient, effective, both need to attain goals, both require leadership, motivation, and both have their own challenges. Both have their own challenges. Okay? So this is one aspect of the story. There is another aspect to the story when we look for the public administration and private administration. When we look at public administration, we are intrinsically looking at an idea that is wedded to the idea of state and government. State and government. Okay? So the environment it is operating in, while both public administration and business administration, they both operate in a social setting. But the canvas is very broad in public administration because of the sheer amount of functions that it performs. A business organization will have limited functions. So a car maker, a toy maker, an internet service provider, a telecom service provider, but a government has multiple functions. So while both perform in a social setting, the canvas is vast. Whereas the public administration's social setting is dominated by a political environment a lot because it is competing choices. There are various people, various types of people, regions that needs to be satisfied. There is a public ownership. Whereas in a private organization, the ownership is private individuals or a set of individuals. They operate in a non-political, non-governmental setting. Okay? So while in the study of public administration, you will find, and this is food for thought for you all, that there are scholars who view administration as administration, who say that there is nothing public or private. Administration is a very focused area which is common to public and private. Yes, the environment may vary, but the administration remains. But then there are scholars who believe that public administration and private administration, yes, they might have certain, overlappings, but largely they are two different kettle of fish. They are two different. So some scholars say that since public administration operate in a public setting, the purpose is welfare. There is service orientation. Whereas in private enterprises, the purpose is not welfare, it is the profit, it is not social service. It is the maximization of profit. And hence, public administration has a broader social canvas than the private administration. This is the reasoning that I am giving you. So while you make that table towards the end, it should have that sort of a reasoning incorporated. And when you are making it into micro notes, into heading and just pointers and words, you should have an understanding that you can connect it backwards. Public administration, the scholars say that they operate within a very strict framework of do's and don'ts, laws, rules, regulations. The public administrators or the functionaries cannot do something that is in violation of these rules, laws and regulations. Whereas a private organization operates in a general laws. They are not that strict. General laws, laws of the land, what is legal, what is illegal. I mean, I cannot run a contract killing agency because killing is illegal in India. Right? But the individual firms, the individual enterprises have a far greater degree of flexibility. Public administration is beholden to the political direction. I gave you this political construct in policy matters. The elected representatives, the public representatives set the agenda. Whereas in private administration, there is no such presence of political direction. They may or may not depend on the political environment. Public administration has to be consistent. Today, a police officer is in charge of certain functions. Let us say a police constable manning traffic. Tomorrow he cannot get up and say, oh, I don't like this, I won't do this. The administration has to be consistent. Because there is uniformity of laws, rules, regulations. Okay? It cannot show discrimination. It cannot show bias. It cannot show any partiality. Whereas a private administration can. I open a courier business. I say I will serve only metropolitan cities. I have opened a new quick com business. I say I will only work in Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Pune, Hyderabad. I won't work in Ladakh. But can India Post say we won't work in Ladakh? No, it can't. So the private administration can show preferential treatment, whereas the public administration has to be consistent in the treatment. You can sell products at your own preference. Nike says, oh, I won't make 300 rupees shoes. I won't make it. It's not my job to provide shoes to everybody. Whereas a government who's giving ration cannot say that I will not give ration to somebody who's entitled. Okay? Also, you see, public administration is far more under the constant public gaze. There is a far greater perception as well as want of accountability, oversight, more ethical, moral disposition and standard. Whereas a private organization which is operating is only answerable to customers, not at large or the stakeholders. In public administration, there is a consistency of tenure. Your government cannot declare itself as bankrupt, or government itself cannot say, okay, I am not playing, main nahi khel raha. Whereas a private enterprise, if today it is profitable, it is fine, tomorrow it can wind up. It can say it is no more good business, let's sell out our assets and exit. Public administration has tones and tonality of monopolistic character. There is no competition to government. The state is there. Yes, political competition is there. One political party vying for vote, but there is one prime minister. There is no other prime minister. Whereas private enterprise or private administration is dictated by competition. You have a Zepto, you have a Instamart, you have a Blinkit, you have a BB Daily. Okay? Also, when it comes to financial aspect, public administration is subject to external aspects, taxation, the legislature authorizing the executive to tax people, presentation of budget, etc. Whereas in private administration, there is no such aspect. You have your own shop, you have your own business, it is up to you. Also, like I said, the gamut of functions in public administration is far more diverse, varied, expansive, complex. Whereas in private administration carries very less functioning, manufacturing, services, sales, supply of software, supply of internet. Also, there is an element of anonymity in public administration. Ultimately, the minister or the public representative is the face. You vote for that person. You don't choose a person. There is you don't choose an officer per se. That is not the case in private administration. Also, how do you see the efficiency? In private administration, efficiency can be seen with profit, margins, resource utilization. Whereas in government, should I only look at the profit or how much money spent, how much money was earned? No, it should be welfare. So there are subjective criteria for efficiency and effectiveness in public organizations. Okay, so these were largely the similarities and differences. Now we have understood this. We have scribbled our notes. But do we study 4-page, 5-page every time? Every time, no. For initial few revisions, we can. But for later, if we make it into a table the way we have made in the first 2 sessions, remember, some aspect, what is the character? At a glance, instantly, we get the idea. Also, if there is a question wherein I need to present these differences, while yes, substantive analysis will be made in points and paragraphs, but a snapshot can be given in table in one portion of your answer, so that the reader understands, the evaluator, the copy evaluator understand that you have understood the concept. So it is a tool, it's a win-win tool, these tables for comparisons and for showing this. Okay? Understood? Understood this? So this is one note making technique that is highly beneficial in such areas. Alright, so you have 10 minutes to make the exercise on page number 5, that is compare the public administration and business administration. Okay? Do it. And in 10 minutes send it across, and then we will see how comprehensively you have made this table. Okay? So that is the proof. Alright, I hope you have made the table on the differences between the public administration and the private administration. Right. Next, I want to actually take you to an idea that is very innovative, yet it can be helpful in especially revision and in the micro notes, wherein you do not have the time for reading the paragraph after paragraph, because you have read that 3-4 times, and that is what you have condensed in those notes in this format that I am about to tell you. Okay, so what I have done is that I have taken the concept of NPM and given you a broad idea that what does a mind map should contain. I will show you a detailed sample as well at the moment, and I have given a task of doing good governance, something that we discussed in the previous session. So that is going to be a homework for you all, wherein you will develop a mind map in a similar fashion on good governance. Okay, so next is mind map. Basically, mind maps are useless if you do not have a basic knowledge, if you haven't gone through a cycle of linear and regular notes. But it is an excellent tool to revise and to build upon your understanding. Okay, let me show you this mind map that I have developed for NPM. Okay, so this topic is NPM, New Public Management. Okay, so I've tried to do this fun thing which I will provide you all as well as part of the regular classes. Okay, there will be some topics on which I will give such mind maps, don't worry. Okay, but the point is that for that substantive classes are needed. You need to have been passed through that basic stage of understanding everything, so that you develop this quick revision tool. I will give some, you will develop some on your own. Okay, so now if you see this, and let me this is a plaything. Okay, new public management as a topic. Let me just open this up, and this gets opened. Let me just very briefly just close on the ideas. So this will capture the analysis and the perspectives, dimensions, and progressively you can link the current affairs, etc. for it as well. So what I've done is, if you will see, the entire mind map is encapsulated in these heads, and they get further branched out. Okay. Introduction, some basic ideas, where it emerged, how it got adopted, global influence and adaptation in India. This is going to be my broad idea. Then expand to theoretical aspects. What are the key things that are related? Scholars like James Buchanan, Gordon Tullock, this principal agent theory, right, which I talked about the social contract in the yesterday's session. Okay, how other things are happening, rational choice theory, managerialism, these are doctrines that are coming up. The idea is to actually demonstrate that how layer by layer in a mind map we can actually do stuff. Is this visible? Is this visible? Can anybody confirm? Naveen? Right? Okay. So you see how layer by layer I have expanded on various ideas, key features, major thinkers and contributors. If I give you this mind map now, you won't you won't be able to understand it. But once you have understood the concepts as part of the classes, they make an excellent tool to actually revise and learn. Okay, so just like here I have developed a mind map based on various heads, so the topics will vary, the headings will vary, but this will give you a sufficient idea of what relates where. Okay, so this is in a way nothing but an improvement on flowchart, but excellent for revision and a systematic. You see, we talked about a structure in notes, so it is very systematic. Comparison with bureaucracy, interlinkages, applications in developed countries, in developing countries, how it is happening in India, examples, criticisms, post NPM developments, and then you have a host of them further getting branched out into details. NPM versus traditional government model. See how I have embedded a table, the same table I have used it here. So the idea is that we make a hybridization of various notes making approaches for our comfort. Okay, and then the conclusion. All right, so this is the mind map. Now if you will see the task sheet that you have, I would like you to do 2-3 homeworks and send it across to me before tomorrow's session. That means by end of the day today. Post that, I will not entertain them. A mind map on good governance, that is on page 6 of your worksheet. Right? If you look at page 7, it is an extension of what we have discussed so far. And we are applying that to a previous year question. So pick up any question. Here I have identified a question, but no need. Pick up any question from the paper of 2024. Okay, question paper of 2024, which you think is easy. Right? I am not asking or expecting 100% correctness there, but which you think is easy. Right, and just give me a structured notes for that. Last but not the least, the third homework, that is a current government's reform, something that we took up yesterday, and relate it with public administration theory. So we related Mission Karam Yogi, direct benefit transfer in the previous session. So right now you have to make notes of that in a structured manner. So that is something, that is the agenda that I wanted to discuss today. How do we build notes? What are the tools and tactics that we can use to build notes? See, it is so extensive, branching out from one place to other. You need not get into this technical. You can draw it on pen and paper, and that is fine. Okay, this I drew so that This I made technical using some sort of a language, because I thought that it would help me explain you the importance of mind map. It should not be that it is technical and dynamic and interactive like this. It might not be. The idea is, are we able to synchronize, are we able to actually put things across in a systematic manner? So that is the practice that I want you to do. Okay. So these three homeworks, a mind map on good governance, a PYQ, and a recent governance reform, and link it with public administration, something that we have done. Just make detailed notes of it using the techniques, whether it is flowchart, whether it is mind map, whether it is your linear notes, okay, tables. I want an exhaustive coverage as per your understanding and research. All right. So before we wind up this session, I do not want you to make correct notes here, Naveen. What I want you to make is an effort, that whether the thought process and the direction is right or wrong. Okay. For that, you might read a 2-page material from somewhere, read a concept from IGNU, right? The idea is to see the methodology. I do not want you to make detailed and comprehensive notes. Understand? The idea is not to check the logic or the correctness of the information. Whether we are able to systematize the effort, whether we are organized in our behavior, that as and when we will make notes, we will enrich them outside the class, we are able to organize them in a systematic manner. Okay? We will have the foundational knowledge in the class, there will be notes, everything will be given. But the point is, when I go back to my home, study a book, want to enrich it, or 6 months down the line, can I do it in a systematic manner? That is the objective. We are not getting into the comprehensiveness of the notes, how much detailed they are. Even if for good governance, even if you can make, okay, good governance, meaning, significance, 10 pointers like this, key pillars, okay, analysis, implementation in India, this is something that we have discussed. We can make a map like this, right? Okay. I'm not asking you to make it out of memory. You can have a ready reference in your hand. But whether you are ready to put that effort, that is the question there. Understood, Naveen? Understood? All right. Okay then, let's wind up today's session. In the next session, we are going to see something that is related to what toppers do, what mistakes are to be avoided, what mistakes does toppers avoid, what kind of sources they use for value addition, etc. Okay, and we are going to look at that. And in the last session, we'll be looking at somewhat PYQs and the answer writing approaches that are needed. Okay, so thank you so much. All the best. See you in the next session.